understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.
Welcome to another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. I am extremely excited today. We have CEO of Dukka, Keturah Osuagwu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nnamdi. I'm happy to be here.
So before we get into the show, which is today's topic is unleashing Africa's commerce potential, micro and macro growth strategies. I'm going to do a little housekeeping and I'm going to introduce our esteemed guests. So with the Tech Behind FinTech, we are streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. And we also have a stream going on from Instagram offline. So, my Instagram folks, hi. If you want to be part of the show, go to techbehindfintech.com and you can see the show live and we have links there so you can add your comments and be part of the show. Everyone else, feel free to drop a comment in and you can now add it to the show. So with that said, let me jump into today's topic. So unleashing Africa's commerce potential, micro and macro growth strategies. I have our esteemed guest, CEO of Dukka, Keturah Osuagwu. So I'm going to read her bio. Keturah Osuagwu is the founder and CEO of Dukka. She is a trained software engineer, 3-time tech founder, growth expert, executive level talent, board member, columnist at Business Day Nigeria, and African art patron. Keturah strongly believes that technology can solve a lot of human problems, or at worst, make them easier to bear. Keturah lives by the mantra that in order to impact lives at scale, one must first impact the lives of a few. I love that, by the way. She actively promotes and supports initiatives aimed at providing equitable opportunities for women and girls to pursue and excel in tech careers. One of such initiatives is the DIP Fellowship Graduate Internship Program, DIP Fellows. Through this sponsored program, she gives young entry-level talents a chance to commence their careers in tech over a 2-year period of immersed bootcamp training, hands-on learning, and paid internship placements with Dukka and other partner organizations. Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I want to tell a story, right, about how we met. So Keturah and I met at Money 2020 last year. And, we were waiting online for some food. I introduced myself. And then she told me what she does at Dukka, and then we decided to have lunch together. And we had an amazing conversation at lunch that I wish we would have recorded and used as an episode since then. So since then, coordinating with her and her busy schedule and trying to get her on the show. So this has been a long time coming. Really excited to have you today.
Yeah, it's serendipitous that we met how we met, right? So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy this show it's finally happening.
Can you do me a favor? I obviously read your bio. Can you tell the audience a little bit about Dukka?
So the simplest way to describe Dukka, what we do at Dukka, is we're building an ecosystem that help and will help any African to manage their money better. For today, we're focused on building a suite of solutions, a single solution for the small business, the small African business owner, that helps them with 2 things. 1, with payment, 2, with bookkeeping. Now that's, those are 2 encompassing words, but what does that really mean, right? When you talk about bookkeeping, is everything you need to operate your business. It's managing inventory, it's capturing sales, it's capturing expenses, it's being able to generate receipts and invoices. It's also being able to see and peer into your business performance insights, looking at your business statements to say, oh, actually, my customers really, really like my fish pie rather than my carrot cake. I put all my heart into my carrot cake, but the data is showing me that they love my fish pie. And my fish pie contributes 40% to my revenue month on month. So maybe there's something there about my fish pie. I need to double down on my fish pie. And then being able to say, you know what, I can see that Nnamdi is a top spender in my business. He comes here every Tuesday. He spends $20 buying a cup of coffee and 2 fish pies. And that's, I need to find more Nnamdis for my business, right? It's having that data. It's also being able to process payments from customers however they choose to pay. While this may not be a revolutionary thing, to people in the Western world, in Africa, it's pretty revolutionary, because in the ability to pay and be paid, it's still an issue, right? People talking about Web3, Web4, Web whatever, we're still, trying to solve the fundamental problems as to how people transact today, about identity, being able to be digitally identified. It's these little things that build ecosystems. So we have the software that helps them with, point of sale. We have, that provide them with a back office where they're able to see or peer into these business insights. We also provide businesses who have a physical shop with our POS terminal, which is a handheld Android-based solution that comes pre-installed with that software, and it can accept any kind of payment. So what happens is when you sign up on Dukka, you get, for someone who runs a physical, like a retail shop, you get a POS terminal. It's handheld, it's portable, it's small, it's the size of a phone. I wish I had it with me. Probably could grab it quickly, and you get a business bank account for your business. You are able to process payments, card payments, contactless, QR codes, bank transfers, mobile money. However the customer walks up to you to say, hey, I want to pay cash today, you can record that sale. I want to pay you with my card. You can capture money like so, and all of that payment is transacted and settled into your business account that has been created for you. And you can see, the item that was purchased deducted from your inventory from available to sold. And you can see, how much, from a revenue and expense standpoint, your business has done that month. So think of a big, complex ERP payment solution, condensed, simplified, pretty much like WhatsApp, for any small business in Africa to be able to thrive on. That's building the operating system for a small business in Africa.
I think I said this last year when I met you and we had this conversation. I'm saying this, and I think that's simply amazing. The question I have for you mentioned bank accounts. How does that exactly work? So, most of the retailers you're dealing with, I assume, prior to working with you, did not have a bank account set up, heavily cash-based business. How does the bank account work? How did Dukka set up that partnership? Can you explain that?
Yes. So we what we provide is an ecosystem, right? We're not a bank, but we provide banking, embedded banking solutions for our customers. So we have partnered and integrated with several banking providers where the information you provide to us when you sign up, we use that to create a bank account for you. You don't even have to walk into a banking hall. You don't have to call up a bank. You don't have to have a personal relationship with any of these banks, but you have an account for your business that is separate from your personal account. So it doesn't matter if this is your first foray into owning a bank account, or you probably have a personal account with a bank, but you don't have an account for your business. And that's the trait, that's the behavior that we see in the market today, where a lot of business owners use their personal account, for those who have an account, a bank account, to run their business. So there's no separation of finance, right? Is my uncle sent me money from, I don't know, abroad, it goes into their account. Customer pays me, it goes into their account. I need to pay my children's school fees, it's from that one account. It's messy, right? It's really messy. That's why small businesses stagnate, and that's why they don't grow, because how can you, even for me, right? Like, and for you, I'm sure, you really can't probably remember how much you bought gas 3 weeks ago, how much gas you filled in your tank 3 weeks ago, right? Like, you could be super smart, your brain could be like a super computer machine, but we forget, right? So that simple separation of finance really helps them to thrive, because now they know that money that goes into their account is for my business. And this is great because for a bank, they're like, oh, on a typical day to convert and onboard such customer profiles, it takes a lot, right? Acquisition cost to onboard that customer is a lot for a bank. And here we are, we've done all the groundwork, we've acquired the customers, the funds are sitting in, in their bank as a settling bank, everyone is happy.
So I have a question for that, because I know, with banks, sometimes they have minimum balances that you have to maintain in order, or you get hit with fees. Some of the businesses you're dealing with, especially the non retailers with a physical location and more of the street vendors, when they first start out, they may not meet those minimum requirements. How do you avoid the fees? How does that process work?
That's where we exist, and that's why we exist, right? Being in the middle, we're able to negotiate fairer terms with the banks of choice, to say, hey, individually this may not make a viable business for you, but look at the numbers. These are the number of customers that we've converted, and this is our growth potential. So from a balance sheet point of view and a volume perspective, it makes sense to the customer, to the bank. And either ways, the banks are very keen and very interested to onboard customers with that profile. They just don't have the bandwidth to. They've tried, and they've done their best, but they're not the best at it.
No, that makes sense, because I see, if you look at it from an individual perspective, just the cost to carry that customer may not be worth it. But when you start looking at it from a volume across the board, then it becomes very beneficial, right? So it's almost like the Amazon model, right? So these little sales that we do to buy a bathroom cleaner or some randomness, right? They don't make money from that, but the sheer volume of everyone using it for a global marketplace makes perfect sense. How
Correct.
have you changed the lives of the street vendor, the person who you go to Nigeria, they're selling stuff in the market? How have you changed that process? It's cash based, we negotiate. Do they use Dukka? How does that work?
So we've been able to create customer personas or archetypes, right, of who our target customers are, just by being in market for the last couple of years. And the profile that you speak to, we call them the micro entrepreneurs, right? Because they are entrepreneurial. They are entrepreneurs. They're buying and selling, and we think that's a more dignified word than calling them traders. So for them, we live in a world where, Nigeria today, the central bank as well as the federal government is reducing the circulation of physical cash. So these business owners are forced to accept some form of digital payment, right? When you build a lot of, I would say predecessors have tried to launch and scale QR code payments. But the issue with that is, with QR code payments, you still need, or with, launching a software only solution, that app needs to be installed on a smartphone, right? But this person that we're talking about, this profile, they have a phone, but it's just not smart, right? It's like, over here we call them touchlight phones, which is like feature phones, right? And we can even see that today there are some, I would say some modifications to those feature phones where there's like WhatsApp Lite and Facebook Lite, but you can't have a, there's just no provision for them being able to accept, a light version of a payment solution. So for them, there's a more solid case as to why our terminals are necessary, because they're providing us with their information. We give them the device. This is what it looks like, right? It's handheld, pretty portable, and you turn it on. It's pretty much like an iPhone. You turn it on, all you see is Dukka. right? And with this solution, you're able to have an account. You can take card payments. You can take contactless. Customers can even transfer into your account, like a bank-to-bank transfer, and you can confirm receipt of payment in less than 10 seconds. That's revolutionary. It really turns just about anyone into a super merchant. So this is your business on the go, and this is all you need. So think about it, right? If you are, a street vendor, which you're mostly mobile, you're a tabletop merchant, you have maybe a 20 by 40 square meter shop, you can use this to run your entire business. You don't even need anything else because this is everything to you. This is even better than a phone because this makes you money, right? This is your business. And from here, you can also, be able to pay your suppliers from here. You're able to transfer the money to, say, another, maybe your personal account. You can transact easily and freely. So, it's life changing for them because they don't even, this is all they need. This is really all they need. They don't have to walk into a bank. They don't have to deal with multiple providers because we've simplified that, experience for them where this is a single solution for them.
Very interesting. So I'm a street vendor selling fish pies. You've been coming
Yes.
to me every week paying cash. You tell me about this amazing platform called Dukka and say, you know what? I've been paying you cash, but I really think if you sign up to Dukka, you can digitize the process. I go, okay, I never heard of it. I'm not that technical. I'm really good at making fish pies. You know this because you eat my fish pies every week. What's the next step for me?
We'll send you up. So we have in certain regions we have. I mean, they could call us or we could come to them. So we have our business associates, which is regionalized that can come to them, help them sign up, help them set up, teach them how to use it. It's pretty straightforward, and they're set up and ready to go. Our motto is: if you know how to use WhatsApp and you know how to use a calculator, you know how to use this. Because no matter how we profile the street vendors, there's one thing you can't take away from them. They understand the business of making money. They understand plus, minus, multiplication, division, and they can calculate. They don't even have to be like formally trained or have some fancy educational background, but they know how to calculate money. And if you're able to do that, you're able to punch in number to say, I'm taking 5,000 naira or $50 from you, and insert request you're paying with card. I choose card. You enter your card. You enter your PIN. Boom! I get the money. So it's straightforward.
That's pretty cool. So so they use it in that respect. Plus, they now, from a back end bookkeeping standpoint, something they probably were not doing before. It's all digitized. Once they go to their login and look at their profile, they can kind of see all of their transactions within the last month or so when they review it.
That is correct. That is correct. So, two ways, right? There are businesses who really do care about the bookkeeping aspect and they're like religiously following that. And there are those who, for them, it's just a means to an end for payments and they just use it to process payment. Even in the process of accepting payment, we still collect information from them that helps us to be able to say, okay, this transaction is for fish pie. This transaction is for cakes. This transaction is for Coca-Cola. And, using, our, emerging technologies like machine learning and AI, we're able to then start making sense of that data to then interpret it for them. So they're able to know, okay, so, fish pie, you saw 10 fish pie and, that resulted in $500 or something like that.
Is there an extra fee for that in terms of getting deeper analysis on my data so I can start making some more like the business intelligence aspect, or does that just come with the overall subscription?
It comes with the overall subscription.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it comes with the overall subscription, yeah, for their customer profile.
Like I said, obviously being from Nigeria, having to interact in different markets to negotiate certain things that a long time ago when I was younger, I just see I was blown away by Dukka and what you're doing. And how did you come up with this idea?
Um, I would say it's a summation of my career, right? So when I graduated from university, I was fortunate to be employee number one at a Japanese startup. And we built solutions for small businesses in Southeast Asia. And I think that was my first foray to see how, technology could really transform a small business. At the time, this was early, 2012, thereabouts. And, small businesses were still, menu was pretty much still a booklet. Payments was still heavy cash in Southeast Asia, and digital payments were just starting to be a thing. And for us, we figured if we could help these small business owners to digitize their menu, create an app where consumers can discover these merchants. We created a wallet system long before wallet infrastructure became a thing, where consumers would preload their wallet with cash, and they could buy on the app, buy deals real time on the app, go to the shops and redeem without having to exchange cash. That way, we help the small business owner to be able to not lose money and to be able to really see, how much their business is generating. We did that. It was successful. I started my first startup. I was just like, small business is a thing. If it's working in Asia, it's definitely going to work in Africa. So I moved to Nigeria. Started my first business, was e-commerce. It failed. 3 years in, it was way too early. In 2015, it was the ecosystem in Nigeria was maybe 2 years old or something, and there were like infrastructural issues that we were dealing with. I guess over the years, doing that the first time, going into management consulting, starting my second business, COVID killing that one, I really knew that there is something. One strong conviction that I had was there's really something here with small businesses, because if you look at the data, you look at the stats in Nigeria, they make up arguably 97% of all businesses put together, but they're grossly informal. And informal mean the way they run their business, that transactions or payments is physical cash, and they're just excluded from this digital ecosystem. So all the noise, all the tech boom you're hearing out of Nigeria, of Africa, is the digital natives. The larger percentile of the population are still digitally excluded. Right. And even for those who are digitally included in their personal lives, when it comes to their business, it's still very manual. So for me, it's like there is something here. And I'm a big believer that technology can solve a lot of human problems, or at least make it easier. And for me, I just wanted to innovate and to figure it out. Like, how do I help them? How do I help this subset? Because whoever does this, that person is going to win. And for me, it came down to, okay, there's so many problems. They can't accept payment is cash. They can access capital when they need it. They pay multiple taxations because the government doesn't even know how to tax them, so they just give them whatever bill and they have to pay. And most times they have to pay numerous government institutions or tax organizations for that. And they don't have data, so even if they want to grow, they go to a financial institution to say, this is my business. My shop is next to your office. I need money to scale my business or to buy inventory. The first thing is going to be, do you have bank accounts with us? Where's your, business history? What can we prove? Because if someone comes to you to say, I need money, they need to tell you exactly how they're going to pay you back. It's fundamental. Even if the person is your cousin, you need to know exactly how your money is coming back. So for me, I'm like, you know what? This is a data problem. No one knows who this customer is. And that's the reason why innovation hasn't really birthed around them. So for us, it's like, how can we start? What's the lowest hanging fruit? I knew that, because of how they are, you can't burden them with multiple solutions. They need one provider, single solution that does everything for them. And it still has to be stupid simple. So when we launched, it was like, okay, let's launch. Lowest hanging fruit was, let's launch as an app, a mobile app, a bookkeeping app. Let's help them keep their books, right? Because what I also noticed was, as much as we we think they don't care about tracking their sales and expenses? They do. They have a notebook and they have a pen. And every day they sell, they write, I sold this, I bought that, I sold this, I restocked that. So it's a manual process that tells you this person cares about their business. It's just in a book, right? And as cute as that book is, no financial institution will take you serious with your book, right? It has to be digital because digital is permanent, right? And digital is traceable. And when it links to a bank account, even more, even better. So first, like, let's launch an app. Let's see if people really do care about, their bookkeeping, if they care about, managing their books. Can we transform or transition them from pen to paper to an app? Because if you have a smartphone, then you're using WhatsApp. If you use WhatsApp, you can use an app to do all this bookkeeping. Even if it's manual. It's manual on the book. It's also manual on the phone. Let's start there. And we did. And we were able to, accumulate over 70,000 merchants in the first 18 months that we launched the app. And those merchants, we, amassed together, we saw that they transacted over $30 million GMV. Crazy. So for us, it was like, wow, there's really something here. I think we've struck gold, because if a tenth of of those transactions came through a digital platform that we provide to them and everything is seamless, this is a game changer. And that's what validated our need to invest in building an embedded payment solution that works for them. Now, a lot of approaches that our contemporaries have taken is, let's go get a banking license, let's become a bank. No, we don't want to be a bank. We're a technology company, and we are creating an ecosystem where every one of us who are trying to serve this customer can collectively share and serve the customer, and we all make money in the process. So that's why we have, we partner with multiple banks, we partner with multiple processors and switches, because we want to make sure that we are the ecosystem where everyone plugs in and everyone serves the customer, and we all win and we all share revenue in that process. So yeah, that's how we got here.
That's amazing. No, simply amazing. I love the story. I want to talk to you about that first 18 months with the app and getting the 70,000 users on it. What was the strategy behind that? What did you have to do to accumulate that type of user growth?
So the first thing we did was, even as we were building the app, when the clickable prototype was ready, we went into the market. We had the clickable prototype installed on our phone, and went to the market, and we just approached different vendors, different business owners, and said, hey, we're building this app that's going to help you with inventory management. And then, with other times, we took a consultative approach to say, what problems are you facing in your business today? Right. So I'm like, I can access money to buy inventory, or my sales boys and girls are always stealing from me, or, my shop got burnt 2 times in the last 5 years, like wild stories, right? Of the challenges that they face. I'm like, okay, we have this application that we're building. It's not ready yet, but here it is. Can you just, let's simulate. Can you just assume that you're signing up and you're signing in and you're trying to add an item to an inventory? And we just watched them. And just by doing that, we could see where they fumbled, where they clicked. We knew, okay, so that button is not supposed to be there. They think this button goes next, but, so I guess the next button is in the wrong place. We need to go back and rethink, the user journey and experience. So before even launching the product into the market, we got some market feedback. And then when we launched August of 2021, boots on the ground. Boots on the ground, we went shop to shop and we're signing up customers. Same thing, just watching them sign up, on their phones. So we targeted the class of customers that had smartphones. But we also saw that a lot of people wanted and liked our solution, but they didn't have smartphones. So for us, it's like, how do we solve that? How do we not marginalize, customers or, the target audience just because hardware is an issue? So, all of that influenced and informed our decision to go the hardware route, because with hardware, you can really control, the experience of the user. And I love to use this, analogy and this, I would say example. For years and years and years, Microsoft is a fantastic company, right? They build amazing software. And most of us grew up using Microsoft, I don't know, 95, 97, Vista, 7, I'm not sure what, wherever you started, you were exposed to Microsoft. And for us, the experience was not full or was not whole because Microsoft ended at the software level and you have to do updates. So you had to buy this hardware. It could be Compaq, it could be HP, it could be Lenovo, it could be whatever. And you had to install the software and you had to install a bunch of software. And it's all these experiences that we really didn't care about. Apple, on the other hand, understood customer experience to say they don't care, they don't want to know, they just know, buy something, turn it on, and it works. How it works, they don't want to know, right? And it's the same thing. So for us, it's like we want to provide a wholesome experience where these target users who have very short attention and patience span just want something that works. I don't care how you do everything else. I just want something that just operates. It just functions, right? It's like WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp because everybody gets it. You download it, you open it, you just have to start chatting. That's it. Like it's not rocket science. You just click on chat. It shows your contact list. You click on the name. You just start chatting. It's not complicated, right? You're not trying to build a spaceship. So that's how we started. Boots on the ground. We went from 1 customer to 10 customers, 100 customers, 1,000 customers, to 3,000, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, just all around. And it was boots on the ground. And it helped us scale significantly. And you can do that in sub-Saharan Africa because labor is cheaper. Considerably cheaper than if we're in the West. And when we did that, we realized, comparing with our digital ads that we ran, we realized that 90% of that traction came from sales and 10% from digital marketing. And we decided to go the sales route again because we're early. We're trying to, disrupt an age-long behavior. People are very comfortable with pen to paper. You're saying, hey, you can use an app to do the same thing on your paper. And guess what? If you ever get your paper lost or your book lost to fire, to water, any kind of damage, the app is better. If you lose your phone, you just buy another phone, you sign into your account, you continue from where you stopped, right? The feedback we got from driving acquisition, doing a sales-led acquisition, is that when the customer didn't like the product or had some form of feedback, they were right in front of us and they could tell us exactly why. But if you're running a digital ad, you get, for whatever, depending on, the channel you use to acquire that customer, they could be incentivized for, you get 10 cents for every click or download, or maybe they really do like it. But then they download it, they click your ad, they download it, they sign up, they hate it, they delete their account, they delete the app, they've left your platform. You haven't even had a chance to interact with them in some of those cases along that process. So it's very hard for you to understand who this customer is, right? And a lot of our customers, as you've mentioned, they're people who are boots on the ground. So that you may not find them on Instagram or on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever other platform. You have to find them in the shop, right? So that was our strategy. And, that gave us a lot of, room to get feedback, to improve our product, to prioritize what feature we needed to work on us, to validate the fact that we needed to build an embedded payment solution, to validate our need to even make that hardware, so it gave us a lot of validation ground. So we were building according to what the market and the customer was feeding us back with as to what they wanted.
Wow. A lot of questions. The thing I noticed that you've done is something that I guess started in 07, 08, around that time, with the introduction of the lean startup. So you build it for your customers. You get real customer feedback as opposed to ideating, internally until the product is made. So I see that you use different strategies of that with the boots on the ground approach, with getting real customer feedback, changing as with that feedback, changing the final product that you were trying to build. Amazing work. Question I have for you. coming from a software side, how was that transition in terms of adding hardware? That's a whole different element, right? And a whole different set of vendors and partners you have to deal with to put a physical product rather than, programming, building an app. What was that like?
It was, I would tell you for sure, it's been an experience. Hardware is called hardware because it is hard, right? It is hard to figure a bunch of stuff out. It's not even just about like figuring out, the vendor. Is also like the logistics and everything, in between. So for me, I mean, we launched Dukka in 2021, but personally, the journey started in 2019. So from 2019, I had started my research. I knew nothing about, this payment ecosystem, this hardware ecosystem. But if there's one thing I know, it's like I'm an engineer, and engineers have a mindset of you will figure it out. Everything is figure outable, right? And that's the, long story, but that's how I became a software engineer. Like I was a kid, my parents brought in Windows 97. I was like, oh my God, what is this new shiny thing? I was just like, oh, internet, and you can connect to it. I was just like, I want to be that guy. Who builds this? I want to be that person, right? Because if someone did that, so can I. The person doesn't have two heads, four eyes. It's the same brain, same opportunities that are available for us, to us. I just have to figure out what they figured out, right? So I've always had that mindset. So for me, from 2019, I was doing extensive research, and I obsessed, and I mean obsessed, over Square, over Zetto. I remember typing an email to founders, CEO's email to Zetto. I had typed it out. I never clicked send. I found out like 2 years ago. I never clicked send, but I was going to send an email to say, I want to do what you're doing in Africa, but I want to understudy you guys and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, I didn't click send. I thought I did. But I obsessed about how they started, the supply chain, how it works, the different components, just trying to figure it out. For me, it was like this puzzle, and I had to figure it out, right? And I just loved how seamless, Square, ecosystem was, and how, a lot of their inspiration, interestingly, came from Apple, because Apple is the first company to have built, an ecosystem where everything just fits into each other, right? But then they built an ecosystem that was, I would say, pegged on hardware, because a lot of the experience that we get to enjoy, I mean, now it's like software driven or software led, but it started with hardware, right? And then it becomes this ecosystem where it's now, if you're part of the Apple ecosystem, it doesn't really matter what hardware you use. You're just in there, your information is stored. You can use it through or access it via multiple channels. So that's how I started. I started talking to different manufacturers, figuring price points, going to the market. I remember even just having a picture, right? And going to the market. I asked taxi drivers, I asked motorcycles. So we have this thing we call Okada. Is mostly banned in a lot of states, but I even asked them to say, would you use this device? And it wasn't this color, it wasn't this, design. It was just something, right? Like, would you use this to take payments? How much are you willing to pay for it? Do you think your customers will be willing to pay, to pay using this way? And went to shop owners. Why are you using pen to paper? You use a smartphone. Why don't you have an app? So literally just trying to figure out, right? And then talking to the OEMs to say, what is the MOQ? What can it do? What kind of support can you provide to me? What language is it built in? Just asking all those questions, and just like a puzzle, just putting the pieces one by one by one, and also just watching the evolution of the payments ecosystem around, especially around those who are building with hardware as a component, how, where they started, where they are now, what the trajectory is, because, it's harder to build or to convince, I would say, investors, for example, if you're building something that's never been built. And that's even the issue I faced in 2021. I didn't have a lot of parts figured out. And I guess the investors at the time could sense it. But I knew that this didn't work. I remember jumping on a call with an investor that someone, a mutual friend, introduced me to, jumped on the call, and the first thing was just like, I don't believe and I don't buy, that this target audience, these street vendors or micro entrepreneurs will ever use an app or ever use a terminal, a POS terminal to take payments. But I'm going to honor my friend and listen to you. I was just like, wow, okay. All right, I think I will change your mind in 30 minutes. And I did, right? Yeah, I did change his mind in 30 minutes. Like, okay, you won me over, but you're still.
Can we go back to that? How did you change their mind, right? So you have a person who's a potential investor. They don't believe that the market that you're trying to target can use the product or transition into any form of digital payments. They've been around this all their life. They've seen this micro market operate cash-based. Everyone notices it. Now they come with this preconceived notion prior to talking to you. They're just talking to you because, as a favor to a friend, it's like, listen, I'll listen to her, but whatever. I really am not convinced. How did you do that?
I'm a salesperson too. so I told him, I showed him the stats. I told him, I showed him facts as well to say, what we're trying to build in Africa and Nigeria is not new. I lived in Asia for 6 years. I saw the evolution of digital technology before moving to Lagos, from Southeast Asia. I was paying my landlady rent on WeChat. It's like WhatsApp, paying your landlord on WhatsApp. This was far back 2010, 2011, 2009, 2008, right? I was like, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when and who's going to do it. And I gave several instances of how, landlines were a thing, and everyone thought that would, with projecting as to how that would be the way to connect the entire country and the entire continent. And then mobile phones, telecommunications came into Africa, came into Nigeria. And if you look at MTN, I read somewhere to say their 10-year projection, they made in 9 months. So if anything, African consumers, African I would say target, our target audiences in Africa, we are notorious, and it's a good notorious for leapfrogging a lot of processes. We adopt, we attract, we just buy into technology because it works. Right. So I told him it's not a case of who, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when and who's going to do it. Right. The projection of the world is digital payment cannot be ignored, and these people will be forced one way or the other to accept digital payments one way or form. In 1992, in fact, as far back as 2010, I remember my dad saying there's nothing you can do to him, he's never going to have an ATM card. Look at him today, right? So it's like there will be resistance, but by nature of, I would say, association and just like policies and changing of times and just, the improvement of technology, people will be swayed to this side. So, I guess showing him that and showing him that this is possible, this has worked in this market, that market, that market. And, we're going to be one of the frontiers of people who will be leading this. I think it changed my mind to say, yeah, I think I'm looking at this the wrong way. I'm going to be one of those people that said, oh, the internet is terrible, and then look at all of us today or saying, oh, these telecoms, I mean, when phones came out, buying a SIM card in Nigeria at the time was 25,000 naira. Today is free. It came out as 25,000. Buying a Nokia 3310 was ridiculously expensive. Buying a Keturah was ridiculously expensive. How much are phones today? So it's a case of you can't be the one who, or people saying today, oh, AI is not going to eat up the world. It will. We can already see it, right? So it's not the more you resist, the more you even validate it even further that this is going to be relevant. So there are two types of people. You could resist the change, or you can be part of the people who effect the change.
No, I mean, you're accurate 100%. And I like to ask those types of questions, especially when you came across resistance. You showed him case studies from other regions. Number one, you said, okay, it worked here. We're not there technically yet, right? but there's proof that the concept could work, number one. Number two, if you look at other verticals, you see people making a transition and change. Why couldn't it work in this vertical in this instance? You showed him proof of that. And then overall, this is the general direction of the world. Why do you think Nigeria will be excluded of that? And by presenting it all in that package, it was like, wow, I was looking at this raw, I see how it could work. And then showing him a high-level plan of how your roadmap and how your plan is, what the plan is to actually get us to that stage, mixed with obviously your research and so forth. So is that a summary of how you were able to switch that mindset?
Fantastically summed up. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Look, hey, so, with the topic of today's show, Unleashing Africa's Commerce Potential, I mean, everything you're doing in Dukka, right? The idea that you're taking heavily cash-based businesses, giving them some sort of back-end bookkeeping that they were not exposed to before, mixing that back-end bookkeeping with actual business intelligence powered by AI, machine learning, to give them an analysis, giving them a form to receive digital payments outside of cash, giving them bank accounts indirectly that they don't have to now go into a bank, but now they have that. I'm assuming, right, that based on these transactions now, or I don't know if you handle this through Dukka, how can they get a loan with that bank based, because they have the transaction history, they have all the revenue they're generating. Do they get a loan through Dukka, or do they go directly to the bank? Is that part of your ecosystem?
Yes, that is part of the ecosystem. So you summed it up really well. I mean, what we're basically building is a small business, credit scoring system, right? Because now, if you do 2 summers with us or 2, holiday periods with us, we can tell you next holiday, how much we can predict how much in sales you're probably going to realize, right? Based on your historic data. If you've been with us long enough, we can tell you, during, the end of year, beginning of year, so that Christmas, New Year period, you sold this much sales, and you ran out of inventory. And, do you need a little bit more cash this time around to boost your inventory so you can sell more, right? We can tell you, and you can be able to accept or to access, uncollateralized loans, which is the biggest issue here, because we don't have a formal, it's just starting to pick up, but we really still don't have a formal credit score, even for individuals, right? Because that's something that's just been developed in the last maybe 5 years-ish on the consumer level. So people can access personal credit, they can access business credit. It's more like you have a job, you have a salary, so we will look at your 6-month salary, and a lot of people do consumer loans because it's pretty straightforward. But when it comes to businesses, it's really hard because where's the historic data? But with Dukka, you can access not just inventory finance, you can access any kind of growth capital that you need. You want to open a new location, guess what? We can we can see how much you're probably going to make from that, right? If you come to a financial institution to say, I need $5,000 loan, for $5,000 loan, and I'll pay you back in 6 months, we can say, hey, pay in 12 or 18 months. And we know comfortably that you'll be able to pay without it affecting your business operations, because you don't have to pay through, you don't have to pay exorbitant interest rates on that. We're an ecosystem. We're not a lending provider. We avail our ecosystem for such providers to provide their financial services or products to our customers, and we all share in the revenue of that.
Look, at the end of the day, right, the banks want to sell products. Their products are in the form of loans, mortgages, or different savings vehicles or investment vehicles. So they're incentivized to do that. That's the goal. So by now having the proof that they're not going to invest in this bad investment in terms of lose their money because of historical data on the cash revenue and so forth, you're making that process easier. So it makes total sense. And as we know, right, business growth is fueled by the loans, constantly investing, reinvesting, and growing. So for a micro and a level, you're making that now accessible. I talked to a business owner from South Africa, I think last year. It was an interesting conversation, and they do similar through groceries, the grocery rewards card. But the idea was the same. How do we track someone's purchases? Make sure that they're buying things consistently now, and then based on that, can the banks get involved and now introduce some products to them? Come into the bank based on your history. We can give you this. So I see that concept happening all over. I know we're running out of time. I could talk to you forever. Like we had, I think when we first met during lunch, I don't know, it seemed like we talked for a very long time. It's happening now because I find what you're doing very fascinating. Expansion. What are your thoughts there? I mean, obviously, Nigeria, it's popping right now for you. You were talking about the continent. What are your plans?
So we are looking to expand into 3 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa before the end of the year. And these have gone past the exploratory phase because we already have identified a captive market and local partners to go to market with. So we will be running a pilot in 3 markets before the end of the year. And, the success of that will then fuel, us scaling fully into those regions. But it's very exciting because, I think a lot of businesses in Africa, when we think scale or expansion, we're thinking regional. But a Nigerian business expanding across Africa is not Ghana and Togo and Benin Republic. A South African business expanding across Africa is not Namibia or Zimbabwe or Botswana. Right? Africa is a big continent. A company in Kenya expanding across Africa, it's not Uganda, right? It's not Rwanda. Why can't we move from east all the way down south or east all the way up north, right? Yes, there are known barriers like language, currencies, legislations, but the way we're looking at it and the way we're approaching it is finding local partnerships that actually work. Right, people who are boots on the ground, understand the lay of the land, who can give us that foundation and that leg up for us to get into the market, test if this is worth it at all or just a waste of time, and validate, get our proof of concept, and use that to make informed decisions. So yeah, very exciting. We're looking at Zimbabwe, we're looking at Zambia, we're also looking at DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, for those who don't know what DRC is. And it's quite interesting how this conversation started and have quickly accelerated in the last couple of weeks. So that's very exciting for us. And we'll see, I guess everyone watching will see how the success of that happens over the next couple of months.
Listen, I consider you a friend of the show. One of the experts in the payment space and what you're doing with the company Dukka. I would invite you on our platform at any point in time. We'd love to just learn more about the expansion in the future and some of the challenges you're facing. And then because it's you that you have overcome, and I would like to ask you questions about that and learn from it. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Like I said, I was blown away last year when I met you and you talked about the work that you're doing and what you were able to accomplish. And still today, I find it 100% fascinating, especially starting in software and transitioning into the hardware aspect. And when you showed me your device, I was like, wow. So just, because I felt it, I touched it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then a micro vendor can get this in the market. I wonder how that plays for negotiations. I remember back in the days, a long, long time ago, right? The biggest thing for negotiation for me when I wanted to try to get something from the market was, no, my friend, we go back and forth and I put the money in the person's hand. I'm like, listen, this is what I have. So think Dukka's messing that. I think I need to find a new negotiation style because of Dukka.
I'm helping them make more.
I know we're at time, so at this time of the show, I like to just give my guests a platform. I mean, obviously you talked about Dukka a lot, but I'll give you the platform to talk about it, how people can find you, and so forth. So I'm going to go off the stage so you can have that time.
Sure. Personally, I can be found everywhere, Keturah Ovio, it's a combination of my first and last name. And you can find Dukka on LinkedIn, it's just Dukka. On other social platforms like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever else is out there, is Trust Dukka, because we want our customers to trust us.
I'm gonna come back on the stage. I want to put the website on the chat. Let me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I would like to do that. I'm just have the LinkedIn page. Let me go there right now. I want to put it on the chat. Just give me a second. I should have had this queued up. Okay, here it is. Dukka.com.
Yeah, DUKKA.com.
Test it out. We're technologists by nature, so you can't just put something on without actually going there first and testing it out to make sure that everything works. So, boom, it's part of the show right now. We'll be there. Listen, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. I learned a lot from I tell people all the time, right? I started this selfishly because I get to ask amazing people questions that I have, and they're forced to answer because it's live and it's about their company. So there's no way out. So I definitely appreciate you coming on board. Thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you the best and have an amazing weekend. To our audience, all those who tuned in from Instagram, from LinkedIn, from Facebook to YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Whether you watch it today or you watch it tomorrow or next year, I thank you in advance. You can find us on the techbehindfintech.com. Click the subscribe button so you won't miss an episode, and you can see our upcoming guests and be part of our newsletter. When you go on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Greatly appreciated. Every week you can catch us live, 12 p.m. EST. You can see us on the techbehindfintech.com or any one of your platforms from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I thank you very much, and I wish you all a lovely weekend. Cheers.
Cheers.
Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.